What are your animation goals? Are you trying to be an animator for a AAA video game company or studio? Or you're trying to be an animator for VFX or maybe feature animation such as Pixar, Sony ImageWorks, or Disney? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. What we'll talk about today, by the end of this video, you'll master the basics of 3D animation. Who am I? My name is Dwayne Elahie. I'm a CG Supervisor. Been in industry for 20 plus years, mentoring for 15 plus years. Many of my students now have 70K plus salary. I've been at these places, and if you check my IMDb, you haven't met me yet, but you probably met my work, such as Netflix The Witcher, James Cameron's Avatar, and you may have seen these films and TV shows, such as K-pop Demon Hunters, and I was a CG rigging supervisor for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. 3D may seem overwhelming, but I'm actually going to show you from start to finish how it works, and till this day, this is the basics of 3D. Now, of course, I'm going to do this quickly, so in terms of quality and the look, the more you put time in it, the better it would look, but the basics are pretty much here. So we'll start off with a cube. If you open up Blender, it starts off with this default scene. If you press tab, you'll go into edit mode, and you'll see edit mode actually a polygon. These are called polygons, or 3Ds made up of points, edges, and faces. So if I go on the side here, you could create them from scratch. If you press Alt A to deselect everything, if you hold Control and right click, you'll create what's called a point or a vertex. If I press Alt A to deselect, I'll create another one. Control right click, another point. Alt A to deselect, Control right click, and you have another point here. Press Alt A and then Control right click, and now you have 4 points, right? If you select 2 of them using the left mouse button and then press F, you'll create what's called an edge, right? And if you select these 2, you create another edge. But if you select all of these and then press F here, you create what's called a face. And pretty much 3D is made up of a bunch of faces. Think of it as, you know, when you have Easter and you have a chocolate bar, there's the full, like a chocolate bunny. You have a full bunny that's solid, and you have one that's hollow. That's the cheaper one. 3D is pretty much like a hollow shell, and we pretty much just put more details of it. So, for example, if you put more points, right now it's a square or a polygon, a quad, we might call it. And now, if you keep putting more points, then it'll be a pentagon. If you put more, then a hexagon, meaning 6 sides, octagon, meaning 8 sides. If you put all the way up to infinity, it makes a circle. Basically, the more you put, the more detail or the more round it would look. So now that we have this, I'll select this and delete it, all the faces. So a cube is just pretty much those faces. You have vertex, I press 2, now I have an edge, I press 3, and I have a face here. What I'm going to do is quickly model a basic character, and this is how modeling is done, and these are how characters are created. So what I could do is I'll go into X-ray mode here, select everything, so it selects everything in the back. I press G and press Z to move it up, like this. I'll press tilde and go to the front view, and I'll press 1 to go to the vertices here. Actually, before I do that, I'll go over here, I'll take off X-ray so you can see it. Now I can make a cut and make edges on the side. So if I hold Control R, and I'll cut it over here, and then I can move it up and down. I'll put one here. Actually, I'll undo that. Control R, click, and then move it up like this, and then Control R, left click, and then move it down. And then I'll do Control R, left click, and then move it to the side. Control R, left click, and move it to the side here. Then I'll press 3 to go to face mode, select the face, and I'll press E and I'll extrude it out. So this is going to represent an arm. Now, of course, the more detail you put, the more time you put, it'll look better. And the other thing is I'm going to go in the middle here, press Control R, Control R, left click, and then right click, and I'll do it directly in the center. And here I'm going to put an edge here for the elbow. Control R and right click, Control R and left click here, then right click to center it. So now you have an elbow there. And what I'm going to do now is just refine it a bit. So if I go to the top view, tilde, go to hold tilde, which is above the tab key or below the escape key on an American keyboard, and then you'll go to top here. I'll go back to X-ray mode, press 1 to go to vertices, select it, press G, and I'll move that here, and that makes it look like an elbow. Now using the middle mouse button, I can move it like that. All right. So now I'll go back, press tilde, which is above the tab key, go to the front view here. And what I'm going to do is press 3, which goes to face mode, select these faces. Make sure I'm in X-ray mode, so it selects the back, and press delete and choose faces. Now that back is deleted. What I'm going to do here, go to modifier, add modifier, generate, and I'm going to do mirror. And then what it's going to do is it's going to take whatever you modeled here and then just project it on the other side so it could work. So as you do one thing, so if I press tilde, which is above the tab key, press go to front. I'll press 1 to go to vertices here. Select the vertices, make sure you're in X-ray mode, so it selects the back there. Now press G to move. Whatever you do on one side, it's going to mirror it on the other side. That's what this modifier does. So I'll do that. I'll press middle mouse to go on the side here. I'll hover over here, press Control R, and then left click, and then right click, just stay where it is. I'll press 3 to go to face mode, select this. Now I'll press E to extrude, and now I have legs. Now I'll press tilde, go to front view. I'll press G, and I'll make this goes to the ground like that, right? Now, actually, the red part's the ground, so I'll just put it around there roughly. I'll press 1 to select faces, the edges or vertices, sorry, the vertices here, or points. Press G and I move it down. And because I have mirror, copies the other side. So we have legs here. I'm just going to cut the middle here, Control R, and then left click, and then right click stays there. And then I press tilde, go to front, select this, press G, and there we have it there. And we can do the same thing, tilde, and go to the right so you see the back. I select those, press G, and I'll move it forward. Select these, press G, move that forward. Okay, so now I have kind of like legs here. And down to the bottom here, I press Control R, left click, and then move it down, and then left click, and then you have an edge here. Press 3 to go to face mode, select here, press E, and I'll move it out. Now you have feet. Now let's just finish up here. So now to combine these two, what you could do is you could either right click, well, you could go press tab or go back to object mode here, and you could right click and just say convert to mesh, and everything will be a single mesh. Or you could also just click on here, the modifier and apply, and now the left side that was mirrored are now real geometry. So now when I go back to edit mode, this is no longer mirroring the other side, but now it's actual real geometry here. So what I'm going to do here is, actually I should have cut it beforehand, but it's okay, I'll just do it here now. I'll press Control R, and I'll left click here, and then right click, and then do it on the other side, Control R, left click, right click. And now I'll press 3 to go to face mode, select these, holding shift, select these two. I'll exit X-ray mode here. I'll press E to extrude, and that will be a neck. And then I'll press E to extrude a little bit, actually before that, undo. Okay, now I'll press, let's see, G, sorry, undo again by pressing Control Z. Press E to extrude. Now what you could do is press S, and that will scale, and I'll scale this up. Actually, I won't do it that way. I was doing it right the first time. I'll press E to extrude here, just to give it a little bit of space, and now I press S, extrude it a little bit, or make it a little wider for the head, and then press E to extrude. Okay, now this is going to be our character. Of course, this is just a remnants of this. You can start this and start sculpting on it, but this is just to show the basics of modeling. So now let's move on to the next section of it. So what the next thing you want to do is what's called painting or texturing on it. But before you do that, you have to unwrap the UVs. Basically, think of it as Christmas paper. You're going to take, for example, if you get a gift wrap that's wrapped in Christmas paper, you notice on Christmas paper or even birthday, when you have a birthday paper, the wrapping paper, they have patterns on it. How that's designed is not on the actual object where they draw the designs on it. It's on a flat surface. So to paint this, let's say in Photoshop or in GIMP or any other 3D program or graphics program, you can also paint it on here directly in Blender. But first you have to unwrap all the pieces onto a flat surface. This can be done automatically. If you go to edit mode, we'll go to face, press A to select everything. And then when you go to UV, you could choose unwrap, and it will automatically unwrap everything. And what does that look like? If you go to the bottom side here and pull this out, and you could change this to UV editor. Now you see everything that we've created, if I select nothing, it's been cut out as a wrapped paper, then pull out and then put flat onto a surface. And this you could draw on, and then it's going to project it back onto here. So if I select, let's say, one face here, that's what the face looks like. If I select these are the unwrapped faces on that side here. So now we have that. Now this is called UV unwrapping. If I press A, it selects everything. All these things were been unwrapped on here. What you want to do now is actually paint onto here. So before you do that, what you have to do is you need an actual texture file, such as a JPEG or a PNG. Luckily in Blender, you could create that directly in here. So if I pull out one side here and I select this and I go to shader editor like this, then you have, by default, you have a main material that's on here. We haven't changed it. So what's a material? This is what's known as surfacing or look dev or look development. Think of if you have something in real life, let's say something that is wood material versus something that's metallic. You can have the same texture or pattern or color on it, but the way light reacts on it, the reflectivity, specularity is going to be different. Materials allow you to treat how that material or surface is going to react. And textures is kind of like the colors on it. So we have a default material on it. We're not going to change it. What we're going to do, for example, in here, if middle mouse button go over here, if I click on the base color and I change the color over here, actually you won't see it on this case because you have to show the material over here. If you change the color, you see that the color will change like that, right? So this is the full color of everything that's applied to, if I press A, all to the surface here. But what we want to do is add a texture. So what you could do is Shift A, go to texture, and then say image texture. So this is as if you could open up a JPEG or a PNG, but what Blender allows you to do is you could press plus, and I'll call this, let's say, my underscore texture, or my image, right? By default, it's going to create a texture for you directly in Blender, which is 1K by 1K, like 1024 pixels by 1024 pixels. You could change that here, but you could say new pixels. And now it created one in here, and you could see it. Not here. Actually, let me see. Over here, under my textures, right here. That my texture, I just created that right there. So right now, it's not connected. You have to take the output of the texture color and put it into the base of the material here. And now you see, because the texture is black, that is black over there. What you could do in Blender is now color it. You have to go, the middle mouse button, just drag that over here. Instead of edit mode, go to texture paint mode here. And you could color directly on here. And you could change the color up here, or you could click here and you could choose colors here. So let's say I want to make it blue, or you can click here, I want to make it blue. And because you're in texture paint mode, you can press F to change the brush size, and you can paint directly on it. And you see it paints over here because, remember, if I go to edit mode and press A, all these faces have been unwrapped here. So whatever you paint on here or here, it's going to represent it on the flat surface. But what's cool about Blender, you could also go to paint directly on here as well when you're in paint mode. If I see the mode over here, actually I'm in UV editor, that's why you have to go into texture or image editor here. And well, you actually should be able to go into paint mode here. And I know if you go into texture paint, it actually automatically goes on this side for you. So, and I actually have to choose the texture here, select it, and now you have the brush here. Press F, and you see as I paint over here, it's on that side. So these faces, if I let me change the color so you can see it better. Let's say go orange. You see those are the faces that are there. Those faces are unwrapped on that part. So if I, let's say, make it purple and I paint here, you'll see that's the same thing here. And I press F to change the size. If I paint there, it paints there. So that's how unwrapping works. So now that you've painted out your character here, I'll right click on the edge here and say join area, put that down here, right click here, join area, put it down, and right click, join area. So just put this flat. I'll go back to object mode. Now, if I could click over here, and just so it doesn't have the textures. So if you want to see the textures, you have to click on that and go in the texture mode over here. And that's what we'll have over there. So, but if we're going to now, if you don't want to see, you can put it back onto material or object. And what we're going to do now is actually create bones so this can move. So how you do that, you press Shift A, and then you can say armature. It'll create a bone in here. Now that bone is meant to move the character. So how you're going to do this, if we go to edit mode, select one of the bones here, press E, and it's gonna extrude the bone. And if you press G and then Z, it's gonna just move up. I suggest you go into X-ray mode so you'll see it. Select the edge here, press G, press Z, go down. Actually, I'll select this part or this and press G. You can move these up, or I'll select this, press delete, just so it's easier. Delete bone. I'll select this, press G, press Z to move it up. I'll press tilde, go to the front view, G, move it up, Z, and that will be, a lot of times you can put it on the root here, but I'll just do this for the root or the hip over here. And it'll just be one bone for the body. So I'll press G, that'll go over here. If I select G at the edge and move it up, it'll be fine. Now if I select this and press E, it's going to extrude and make another bone. Actually, it's not. Select this over, press E. Okay, that, and press G, Z to lock it here. And that'll be the neck. Now E, G, and then Z. Okay, now we have the head over here, right? And what we're going to do now is we're going to, from here, press E. Okay, let me go to front view, tilde, go to front. I'll select this part over here. Now I'll press E, and that will be like the clavicle, and that will go to where the arm is here. I'll press E. Actually, I can't. I want to see the edges. So what you could do is under the viewport overlay, click on the arrow down there, go to wireframe. Now I select, because I'm in edit mode of the bone, I can select this, press tilde, go to front, press E, and I'll go press X so it stays on the X-axis, and I'll put it right where the elbow is. I might cut here, and then I'll press E to extrude again, and press X to stay on the X-axis, and I'll put it here. And then we have, that will be for the arm. Now let's go to the front view again. I'll select this one again, press E, and now I'm going to do it by eye instead of mirroring it, just so you could show you. Click here. Now press E, extrude to go here, and press X to stay on the axis. Click here, and press E, press X to stay on the axis, go here. That's fine. And we'll do something similar here. We'll select this, press E, and we'll just put that to where the leg will go. Now press E again. We'll go where this will be. Now this is, I'm moving it to the side. I'll press G to move it a little forward. Undo. Press G, then Y to stay on that axis, move it forward. And then from here, tilde, go to the right view. Tilde is above the tab key. Press E, go down here. And I'll press E, and I'll go here. That will just be for the leg here, and I'll do the same thing here. Select over here, press tilde, go front, press E, I'll put that over here. Press E again, I'll put that around here. I'm eyeballing at the moment, and then I'll press, whoops, undo. I'll select this, I'll press G to move it. But I still have this, I created that by accident, so I'll select this and press delete, and then select the bone. Select this, press G, and then I'll press Y to stay on the axis, like that. And then I'll press tilde, and I'm going to say left view over here. Press and hold tilde and press the left view. I'll press G to kind of like line it by eye from the other side. Now press E to extrude, kind of line it over here. Then press E to extrude and kind of line it over here. So now we have the bones for the character here. So now we have an armature and the character over here. So if I go to object mode, now if I select the armature and press G, it will move it, but doesn't move the bones over here, right? Now you want to what's called skinning the character, or basically you have the bones move the vertices or move the mesh or move the geometry that you modeled. So what you do, if you're still in the bones over here, go to object mode. You'll notice that if you select the bones over here and press G, you'll move around, but it does not move the mesh. So press Controls Z to undo it, so it goes back to where it is. What you do is first have nothing selected, press Alt A or go to select none, or just select somewhere empty in the viewport. Select the mesh, hold Shift, then select the bones, any bone. If you're in object mode, it doesn't matter what part of the bones, it'll select the whole armature. Then press Control P and then say with automatic weights. Now the bones will move the mesh. So if you go to first of all, you have to select the bones. So if you have nothing selected, you could go to armature over here or select the viewport if you're able to select it like this. When you select it, then you have to be the bones or the armature. Go to pose mode. And now in pose mode, that allows you to animate. So if I go in and press R, now you could rotate this like that, or you could take that hip. So that's the parent. That will move everything here. Or you can see that's not actually together. I guess these bones. So what do you have to do? Go to edit mode, select this, select one of these, and then hold Shift, select the other one, and then select this one, and then press Control P, and then say keep offset, so it doesn't move where they are. And now if I go back to pose mode and select this and press G, everything moves because this is now a parent, meaning that this is the parent and these children will follow along. So now with this, while you're in pose mode, if you press R, it will rotate or move. So how animation works, if I go, you can animate the armature in pose mode. If you're in object mode, anything you select will be the whole object of the armature. You have to go into pose mode here when you select the armature to animate. So what you could do is, like, let's say select this over here, and you could key that. You could do automatic keys with here. Keying means that this is a timeline and it's calculated in frames. Right now it is by default, if you go over here in output, it's 24 frames per second. You could change it to whatever you want. If you're doing games, it might be 30 or 60, but we'll keep it at 24 frames per second. That's film. And what you could do, I'll just put this from 1 to 24. So the start time is 1. I'll put this to 24, press enter. And now you could hold Control and put your mouse over it and middle mouse button to zoom this in, or just use the middle mouse button to center it. But if you hold tilde over it and then say frame all, it will just go and frame the whole range over here. And you can move this up and down to see the keys. So what you could do, I'll select just that one bone over here and I'll press I, and that will key it, right? Meaning it will remember at this frame, remember these values. If you press N, you see yellow here. These are the values for the location, rotation, and scale. It remembers the value at that time. So let's say I go to 12, which is halfway of a second because it's 24 frames per second, and I'll press G. You see the colors turn orange. That means if it's green, that means there's no keyframe there. Orange means you moved it from the keyframe, but you didn't key it yet. And then if you press I, floating over the viewport, it will actually remember that. So now it's animating like this. And then I could press G here again on the 24 frames. It moved, then I press I, and there, now you have animation. And you can make this walk. So you could go on the first frame, for example, take this, press R, and you could rotate that forward and press I. And then let's say this one, press R, rotate it backward, press I. So it remembers that. And then we could go over, well, it's not walking because it's floating in the air. You can select this, press R, move it backwards, press I and then press the other one, select the other one with the left mouse button, press R, rotate it forward and press I to key it. And you'll see that it's, let me take out X-ray mode. Or actually I'm in pose mode, that's why you see it X-ray. But if you go to object mode and then take off X-ray mode here, and I'll press N to hide the N panel over here. You'll see that it's moving its legs like that. Now I want to demonstrate lighting. Normally you would light your character. I'll go to add or Shift A, and then I'll choose over here monkey. So we'll have a monkey over here, and I'm going to press Control 5, and that will just smooth it. What basically that does, it makes a modifier, a subdivision at level 5. I could right click and then just choose Convert to Mesh over here. And then on here, what I'm going to do, it creates over here, you have this over here. It needs a material. So if you go down to the material over here, what that's selected, press New, it'll create a brand new material over here. And if I go to this mode over here, this right here is the viewport shading. Now I could preview the material in here. I click on this and you'll see it will change the color. And what I'm going to do is basically light this. So how to light it? One, I'm going to just delete that light that's already in the scene, selected and press delete. And then I'm going to press Shift A, or you could go to add over there, go to light. I'm going to choose an area light like this. And I'll press G, I'll move this up, G, and I'll go over here. And I'll select this and then press R, and I'll rotate that G like this. And we could go over here, and well, on this side, we could go over here and press 0 to see the camera view, and middle mouse button here, and then I'll click on this to preview what we see in here, right? And that will preview the lights in here. So if I select this light, and you see under the lights over here, under data, if you have a light selected, you'll see this. You see the power is 10 watts. That is the power of the light emitting. So if you go lower, you see the light goes off. If you go higher, it'll get a lot brighter. So this is how you could actually light the character. So I can make this, let's say 100, if that get really, really bright. I can select this, and I'll press G, and I'll put it on the other side. I'll press R, and I can rotate that. And actually, sorry, that didn't duplicate. Shift D, select it. I press Control Z to undo it. Shift D to duplicate it. Now press R to light it over here. Press G, and you see the lighting is being affected like that over here. Press R like this. And now with this light, I could make this one really a lot more powerful. Let's say 1,000. I only put 100 in this case. 1,000. And you see that's a lot brighter. And I could take this and press G. G again. And I could probably get it more to the edge. I'll press R to press escape to do that. I'll go to the top, press R, and I'll point it more here. And I'll press G and I'll go a little lower. So basically I'm just trying to get it at the edge, and it just makes kind of like a highlight rim there. And basically that's how you could do lighting with your character. And to actually render this out, you'll click here and you go render image, and you have your lighting there. That's basically how lighting works at that point. Quick heads up for all you 3D artists watching this. If you've been grinding away at tutorials and YouTube videos but still feel stuck, I've got something special for you. I'm hosting a 3D character rapid bootcamp workshop where I'll walk you step by step through the exact skills studios actually hire for. It's not theory. This is the stuff that got me hired and working in the industry. If you want to finally build a portfolio that gets callbacks and interviews, hit the link below and grab your spot. Seats are limited, so if you're serious about going pro, this is your chance. To recap, I quickly went over how modeling, UV mapping, textures, rigging, animation, and lighting works. And these are the basics from beginning to end, and every 3D animation studio up until today uses this exact same technique. Now, of course, the more time you spend on it, the better it is, but that's basically the basics. And the thing about this, even professionals that work who are professional texture artists or professional sculptors or modelers or animators don't know all the steps. The fact that you know all of them and how they all work together alone already puts you ahead of a lot of people and who work professionally. And that knowledge alone actually does help you in your work, in your job. Because again, most people don't learn this, because what happens when you go into school or they learn this stuff online, they go so deep in one subject that they don't know how everything connects. They kind of go down a rabbit hole and become a specialist in that, not taking an overall view of how everything works together. And this actually it's a big problem in the industry in many studios, in VFX and in animation studios, feature animation studios, and also video game studios, that most people don't know all the steps of how all these put together. Now, this alone will put you ahead far in terms of making you job ready of that, just knowing this stuff. Now, the point is to get better at each one, but I guarantee you, knowing this alone will actually make you a great asset to any studio, because at that point you could coordinate and make decisions, and you'll become the go-to person for that. So the next steps here, I would say, is learn any 3D software. Every 3D software works the same way, whether you're using Blender or Maya or 3ds Max or Houdini, Modo, Lightwave. One person will say this one's better than the other. I professionally use all of them, and it's literally in VFX. Everybody, each one has its strengths and weaknesses. So I usually task with to put a lot of shots together, or even in video game studios, you might use ZBrush for sculpting, and then Mudbox, well, not Mudbox anymore really, or like Motion Builder for motion capture. And so you have to learn all these software. But what I showed you, 3D works the same way everywhere. And even when you export it to a game in Unreal Engine, it works the same way. It's just how their flavor of how they do it. So if you want to learning 3D with any software, you can transfer it to any other one, right? I would suggest you learn Blender because it's completely free and it's powerful. It recently won Academy Awards, so it is the highest quality for free. So, and again, if you want to learn other software and that the studios uses, you could learn it at that point, because all you're really going to be learning is where the buttons are, because 3D works the same way. What I showed you, it works the same way in every 3D software. And if you want to learn more about 3D and how the industry works in general, check out this next video.